Hey, you guys. I decided to get rid of the countdown for for the members only live stream and just come straight on to ya. Hello, Grenelson and Joseph. How's it going? Hope you guys read the chapters today. Good deal. Hey, Dale. How's it going? Awesome. I read the chapters today as well. I will say that chapter 2 was a bit rough for me as far as keeping my attention, not keeping my attention, but it was just there was a lot of data and a lot of examples of their concepts. And so chapter 2 was a little rough, but chapter 3 I really enjoyed. So, and we'll talk about that tonight. Hey, Kitaya 80. Hello. So yeah, hello to all my channel members. This is week 3 of our book club for Generations by William Strauss and Neil Howe. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. I super appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. I hope you guys are too. We're going to go through chapters 2 and 3, which were, let's see, life along the generational diagonal and belonging to a generation. And like I said, when I first got on here, that chapter 2 is a bit rough for me, but it's one of those chapters where they're just kind of laying their foundation and introducing their different concepts. And so they've got to give a lot of definitions and examples to prove their points. And I understand why they did it. And the other thing about it is, since it was written in 1991 and they're talking about, different time in our history and different generations than what we have now, sometimes it's hard to keep it all straight. Because they're silent and they're boom and they're GI and they're cohorts, and they're the olders and the youngers and the diagonal and the so like there's a lot to know. And so don't feel I hope you're not feeling overwhelmed with all of that, because again, the reason we're going through generations is because this book is going to introduce you to the whole idea of generational theory from Strauss and Howe, and it's going to be very important for you to understand all of this when we read the other books. The 13th gen, Fourth Turning, and Fourth Turning is here. So yeah, and they're all dead now. The examples are somewhat dated. I mean, they open up chapter 2 with talking about the book Passages by Gail Sheehy, which was apparently a really big book for boomers in the 70s. And when they wrote this in 1991, the assumption was that everybody knew Gail Sheehy's Passages. Well, now we don't know what that is, but they explained it really well. And it was a good example of what they were of the theory that they were trying to get across. Yeah, never freaking heard of it either. and I consider myself to be quite I don't know, up on culture, especially of the 70s and 80s, even if it wasn't for Gen X, even if it was for our parents. But I totally missed that one too. So obviously I am not up to date on all of the 70s culture. Apparently I am very focused on my generation. Yeah, and that's totally fine if we're just skimming. Like, honestly, when we get into the different generations, I mean, we go through all the different generations dating back to the 1500s. I'm thinking that we'll probably skim over a lot of that and get into the generations of the 20th century, unless you guys really want to go in generation by generation. But all they're doing is trying to prove their point of their theory and how it goes all the way back to the 1500s. But the best part of this book, I promise you, is going to be the very end when they do all their projections for the 90s and beyond, because it's pretty cool. Yeah, 70s culture was super bizarro world. That was because of the boomers coming of age. But anyways, so let's go ahead and get into this. Chapter 2, Life Along the Generational Diagonal. This chapter introduces us the core visual and conceptual model of the theory of the generational diagonal. So instead of being able to look at, okay, so I'm 48 years old right now. What I am experiencing at this point in history as a 48-year-old would be completely different than what a 48-year-old was experiencing in 1991 when this book was written, or when the 48-year-old in the middle of World War II or in the middle of Vietnam or whatever. So instead of looking at life through the time was it called the time fallacy? Let me look. The life course fallacy and the fallacy of, where was it? The age bracket fallacy. So yeah, you can't really look at life like that, and you can't look at a moment in time and look at what the 48-year-olds are doing now and the 28-year-olds are doing now and think that that's going to be a common life cycle. So, and we'll get into that a little bit more, but what I really liked, let's see. Well, first of all, let's go ahead into their definitions. The cohort group, which was really good. So your cohort is everybody born in your same birth year. So there's the 77 cohort, the 78 cohort, the 79 cohort. And then you have your cohort groups, which would be a Zennial. A Zennial would be a cohort group born between 76 and 83, 84. That would be a cohort group inside of the larger generation that they have out to be about 22 years. So we have the cohort group, and they explain why that they like looking at history through cohort groups and generations, and how they came up with their generational diagonal. So I thought that was very, very interesting. So like here on page 47, it says, take any phase of life, move forward or backward a quarter century, and you will invariably discover profound changes in what it means to be that age in America. So that's kind of what their premise and theory is of the diagonal. Yep, a 48-year-old in 91 would have been a silent generation. And that is our, and that makes sense, because when we get into chapter 3, it talks about how you have more influence and connection with the second junior generation. So silent and Gen X, and then Gen X and Gen Z. So you have connections because you're basically, as a rule, you're raising that generation. So, and we'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, and that makes sense because we have a lot in common with the silent generation, Gen X does. So I really liked that. Of course, it says no law of nature decrees that all cohort groups must live the same life cycle. The most cursory glance at history confirms that they do not. Because they do not, we must look at each cohort group's unique age, location, and history to uncover the inner logic of its own story. This is the important insight of the generational diagonal. Let's see. Now, if you have your book with you, this book, Chat GPT summary, is good enough to get the concepts. Good deal. I need to pull up Chat GPT to help me organize myself a little bit more, because I get a little flighty and all over the place, and we don't want that. But if you have your book with you, or if you have it concept online, on page 48, I'm going to read, because this part I really liked and wanted to hear your thoughts on. Okay. Let's go to the top of the I'll talk. The top of page 48. Others can recall less dramatic shifts, the rising drug use among successive college freshman cohorts in the late 60s and early 70s, for example, or the growing popularity of military and entrepreneurial careers among those who came to campus in the early 80s. As each of us grows older, we look at people of other ages and wonder whether we are changing or they are changing. The answer quite often is neither. We were both different to begin with. We were born at different times. We belong to different cohort groups. What exactly does it mean to belong to a cohort group? Unlike many group definitions like neighborhood or career, cohort group membership is involuntary. Then again, so is age. But unlike age, cohort group membership is permanent. And unlike sex or race, also involuntary and permanent, it applies to a finite number of identifiable individuals. After its last birth year, a cohort group can only shrink in size. Fixed in history, it must eventually disappear. What makes the cohort group truly unique is that all of its members from birth on always encounter the same national events, moods, and trends at similar ages. They retain, in other words, a common age, location, and history throughout their lives. Since history affects people very differently according to their age, common age location is what gives each cohort group a distinct biography and a distinct life cycle. So I really, really like that, because that's why I think I didn't even realize at the time one of the reasons why I started my channel was because I was trying to find my cohort. I was trying to find my people, for Gen X, my generation, but then my cohort of Zennials, because more than anything else in our lives, like I said, unlike sex or race, and unlike careers or your neighborhood, your age, your cohort group is involuntary, and you're in it, and we're together, and our common age, location, and history binds us together in ways that other things can't. So I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts about that. Let's see. In hindsight, the rising drug use of, boomers' generation was a lot bigger than a small dramatic shift. Yes, it was. That's a good point. Yeah, it's a balloon that can only be inflated once and slowly deflates. I like that. I also like the fact that location is stressed as well, because the location in the world will be a large shaper of the cohort group. And I completely 100% agree. Cohort group is a secular concept. Well, they go back into a lot of the beginnings of some of these words. And so it comes out of religion, and they kind of build on it, right? Where was that? Let me see if I can find it. I wasn't prepared for that one. Because where did he define cohort? I got to find it. If anybody can help me define where they define cohort. Because I kind of skipped over that first part in the generational dialogue. Cohort group. Where did it go? Oh, yeah, here it is on page 44. To understand, we have to start with the building block of generations, the cohort, derived from the Latin word for an ordered rank of soldiers. Cohort is used by modern social scientists to refer to any set of persons born in the same year. Cohort group means any wider set of persons born in a limited span of consecutive years. Does that help? Yeah. That was England. It was Latin, rank of soldiers. I mean, So yeah, I really, this makes me look at things so not differently, but just kind of with a little bit of a new filter on things. Because of this right here. Age location shapes cohort groups through historical shifts in society-wide attitudes towards families, schooling, sex roles, religion, crime, careers, and personal risk. At various moments in history, Americans have chosen to be more protective of children, or more generous to old people, or more tolerant of unconventional young adults. Then, after a while, the mood has swung the other way. Each time this happened, the social environment changed differently for each cohort group. Take open classrooms in the early 1970s, or A-bomb drills for elementary students in the mid-50s, or the huge rise in Social Security benefits in the mid-70s. All were passing fads, but fads that forever changed the lives of the specific cohort groups affected by them. This is so cool. Trees planted in the same year contain rings that indicate when they all met with a cold winter, wet spring, or dry summer. Cohort groups are like trees in this respect. They carry within them a unique signature of history's bygone moments. I love that. And that's why I feel so, I don't know, connected to other people that are my age in my cohort. I love analogy too. Let's see. Gotcha. In and of itself, cohort groups don't necessarily involve religion. However, there certainly are successive smaller cohort groups along a religious line, such as the Young Jews post WW2 increasingly. Gotcha. Abandon keeping kosher. Okay. Yeah, it can definitely be applied in a wider secular way now, but its roots are in military, politics, and religion. Right now, I'm so uninterested in following anything that is education related because I currently have no real stake, as I have no children or grandchildren being educated right now. I'm right there with you. And when I had my niece and my nephew, I took them out of public schools and just homeschooled them myself after COVID hit and graduated them from home. But yeah, so it's really interesting. I think that it really opens my eyes as to why I feel so connected to people my age and always have. I mean, it's weird. It's weird that I've always, but if it really makes sense because you're with somebody that's your exact same age for like the first 12 years of your life. It's school wise, and sometimes the first 20 years of your life, depending on where you go to school and how. So it's really interesting. How come Gen Z artist type? If I'm skipping this discussion to archetypes, how come Gen Z is the artist type? I haven't gotten into that part yet. I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared for that question. We'll have to, when we get into the archetypes, when they get into all that, I'll have a better answer for you. I wasn't prepared. I'm sorry. Let's see. The more tightly age bracket, I'm on page 49 as the first full paragraph. The more tightly age bracketed the social experience, the more pronounced the ultimate cohort identity. From kindergarten through high school, almost all pupils in any one classroom belong to the same birth year. That's what I was just saying. In non-school activities like Little League and Scouting, children participate within 2 or 3 year cohort groups. College-age students date, study, and compete athletically within cohort groups, seldom exceeding 5 years in length. As modern adults age into midlife, their friendships typically widen into longer birth year zones, but their cohort bonds remain strong. Most retain contact with big chill circles of like-aged friends with or against whom they measure progress at each phase of life. High school and college reunions remind alumni of their cohort bonds, how each class remains, in important respects, different from those a few years younger or older. Over the last few decades, cohorts have even been retiring together in their early to mid-60s. Like all status designations, including sex, race, and profession, cohort group membership forges a sense of collective identity and reinforces a common personality. Yeah, the Big Shield did start this all. Okay. Yeah, we will definitely get into the archetype discussion, I promise. Big chill was the moment that boomers started whining. I think you're not wrong. It was the early 80s. It was when Reagan first got into office. It was after the Carter and the whole Iran thing and the gas thing. And yeah, the me generation started becoming the me generation through their financial means. Instead of expressing themselves through music or movies or protests or whatever it was they were doing, they started expressing themselves through what they could buy, their brand names, the yuppies. They became yuppies. Oh wait, I lit this one and never smoked it. You tease the boomers, but yeah, they really got in touch with their aging. They became yuppies and dinks. That's correct. And they also they accelerated the divorce rates of their parents, of the generation before them, of the silent generation. Because even the GIs had some divorces in there, and I was kind of surprised. We'll get into that here in a second. Because when they were talking about that book that none of us had ever heard of, that was written about the silent generation? I remember whatever generation it was. She was talking about having their first divorce by 28, 29, 30. I didn't realize it was that common. Kevin Kline, yes. Oh, I love the movie too because it has a great soundtrack. I even put it on my list of 80s movies that people should watch because it gives you quite the insight into boomers who were in their mid 30s. It has the best soundtrack. That's the biggest reason why. I should have brought up the online version of this to have next to me, but instead you're gonna have to watch me look down and read it out of the book. Know the enemy. Yeah. Know thy parents. Yep. Okay. So anyway, they as they go through the rest of this chapter, they give you examples of how impactful certain cohorts have been over the course of history. Did you guys find that kind of interesting? On pages 50 and 51, they talk about that was the study of all the different cohorts from like the 1880s to the 1960s. And it talks about how some are good at vocabulary, some are good at number skills, some are good at reasoning and logic, but it's all by cohort. You learn so much about your parents watching The Big Chill. I agree. Same here. It made me look at them a different way, because you don't think about your parents as, as people when you're younger. They're your parents, kind of like your teachers. They don't have a life or world outside of what they do for you. Your teacher is just there to teach you at school. They're not supposed to be, you're not supposed to see them at the grocery store. That's weird. And that's kind of how it was with parents. And it was movies like The Big Chill that had me realizing that, oh yeah, like they're their own people with their own challenges, their own emotions, their own loves and losses, and oh, you had super young parents that included you with their friends. I did a little bit of, my mom was 19 when she had me and my dad was 25. So I had relatively young parents, but they were, their social life was through our church. Like they weren't partiers or anything like that. So, but I was always included. We would have, we would go, there was other young families in the church and you'd go over to somebody else's house and they'd have game night and you'd play with their kids. And so you would see what the adults were, playing their games or whatever, their card games or their trivia games. And you could see what they were doing, but you weren't ever included. Your mom was 19 and dad was 23 when you were born in 71. Nice. You had parents in your 30s. And see, this is an important thing because once we get into chapter 3, it kind of talks about how different of an experience for Gen X it is from those of us that had silent Gen parents as opposed to those of us that had baby boomer parents, and how that affects our upbringing and stuff, which I thought was very interesting. So, did you all get the diagonal part? So, does this diagonal thing kind of make sense to everybody about what this theory means and why? Is there anything that doesn't make sense as far as the generational diagonal? Because I want to make sure everybody's like on board with this and understanding. Or if you have any concerns or any criticism of it. You were a little confused. CON. Let me see if I can explain it a little bit better. Because I had a couple other hold on. So over on page 55, it gives this example. During the 4 years of 1967 to 1970 were born all of the children conceived during the flower child summers of love and anti-war protests. Those same kids were the first who heard about the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster while sitting in a high school classroom. So those kids of the summer of love and anti-war protests were the high school teenagers during the Challenger explosion. And 2/3 of all U.S. soldiers killed during the American invasion of Panama in December of '89 were Gen Xers born between 1967 and 1970. So cohorts are experiencing things the same age location. So let's see if I can explain this really good. Okay, no worries. That I want this. And if anybody can help me out trying to explain this a little bit better. So if you look at a moment, let me see if there was a, where is this thing that there was another. Okay. Over on 56 and 57 here where they had the two different tables. Let me see here. I'll bring them up on the computer. On the computer. It's all computer. Surrounds and how Internet Archive. Everything's computer. All right, let me bring it up. All right, now I got to get to page 56. Woo! Oh, I went way too far. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, almost there. Oh, it's not going to have the figure. Womp womp. Well, I tried. Okay. So if you have the book in front of you on page 57, you will see that, okay, remember that they have the four different, before we get into this, remember there's the four different life stages that they define. Let me find that. So it was 0 to 22, or I'm sorry, 0 to 21 was youth. Rising adulthood was age 22 to 43. Midlife age 44 to 65. Woo woo. And then elder age 66 to 87. So if you look at the chart on page 56, it will. So let's go to the year 1986, the one on the very far right column, and it will show you that the generations at this time, the youth, which would have been Gen X in 1986, were criticized. The rising adults were narcissistic. The midlifers were indecisive, and the elders were leading busy lives. Okay. So, but those are four different generations of people. So you can't read this, so just because the youth was criticized and the rising adults before us were narcissistic doesn't mean that when we get to rising adulthood that we'll be narcissistic. There's going to be a growth to the diagonal. So when you go over to page 57, look at it from the diagonal. As you age, the protected youth of the 1920s became the heroic rising adults of the 1940s, became powerful midlifers and busy elders. And that all goes through the diagonal. Does that make sense? You have the book. Okay. Oh, you have a PDF you can send me? What email? genxnatalie@gmail.com. genxnatalie@gmail.com. Yeah, a PDF would be awesome. So, in other words, to look at it at the diagonal is to think of it as you are not going to have the same, like, okay, so right now, my parents are in their late 60s and early 70s, right? And right now, we are in a crisis. We are in a fourth turning. They are in their late 60s and early 70s. Their experiences right now and what their generational, what their cohort, their peer, what was it? I can never get this word. And I even had it all highlighted. Their peer personality. So the peer personality of my parents right now and what they're experiencing in the moment in history that they're experiencing, I will not have that same, I will not have that same experience when I get to my late 60s, early 70s. So instead of it progressing up, it progresses to the diagonal. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So we're experiencing more things of generations 2 and 4 generations before us than we are experiencing the same things or the same moods and personalities of the ones right before us or right after us. Let me get into my email here. Oh my goodness. I'm getting all kinds of stuff from random places right now wanting to collaborate or wanting to like, hey, we can help you grow your channel. All you got to do is do this. But yes. Yeah, so we are criticized, alienated, pragmatic, and reclusive. Exactly. So our mixture of life experiences through our different phases of life are going to be a completely different mixture compared to what the boomers experience in their different phases of life. So you got to read it as a diagonal and not as a up and down, or not as a vertical or horizontal. I hope that makes sense. Okay, no worries. No worries. File too big. No worries at all. We'll just keep moving on. I hope that makes more sense, and I'll try to make it more clear as we go along. Let's see what they wrote. Okay, each diagonal represents a generation possessing its own distinct age, location, and peer personality. Although smaller cohort groups often reveal telling links over time between experience and behavior, only generational cohort groups encompass all individual cohorts and organize them by peer personality into basic building blocks of social change. By inquiring into generations, what creates them, how long they are, how their boundaries can be identified, and how they align in constellations, we can begin to understand their powerful relationship with history over the centuries. So hopefully I'll get better at explaining this as we go along. Let's go ahead and move on to chapter 3. I really, really, really loved this chapter. Grindleson, and the millennials are protected, heroic, powerful, busy. Yes. Well, they should be, but they really dropped the ball on the whole heroic thing and powerful, because baby boomers have put a blockade. So we'll see how that goes. All right, moving on to chapter 3, belonging to a generation. I really like this chapter. Let's go to page 59 down here on the next to last paragraph. Even small amounts of time can be decisive in binding and separating generations. I love this. This is so good. In today's era of age gradations, a 1-minute delay in birth, most often at the stroke of the new year, can mean the difference between kindergarten and first grade 6 years later. That decision, in turn, can mean the difference between wartime draft and schoolroom comfort 12 or 13 years farther down the road. A PhD candidate born on December 31st, 1942, had an excellent chance of gliding through graduate school on student deferments. One born the very next day, which would have been January 1st, 1943, found it much harder to avoid Vietnam. In this respect, a generational boundary is like the federal definition of poverty. A family whose income is $1 below the income limit for child support will think, behave, be perceived, and be treated differently from another family whose income is $1 above the limit. As years pass, the dollar under and dollar over families will probably grow less alike, thanks to what was at first an arbitrary distinction. Likewise with generations. I thought that was very, very interesting. And you really think about it, like, you know, because I went to a private school and I didn't have to turn 5 until December 31st of that school year. So I started school at the age of 4. And if I wouldn't have done that, if I'd have waited another year, I'd have been in the class of 96. But I also skipped the 5th grade. It's a long story. Anyways, but where you start at school and what age and where you're born makes a bigger difference than you realize in some of your life experiences down the road. So that was really, really crazy. So what was it? Gassett that called generation the most important conception in history, which I think is very interesting. So they on page 60 defined a generation as a cohort group whose length approximates the span of a phase of life and whose boundaries are fixed by peer personality. This definition includes 2 important elements: the length of generational cohort group and its peer personality. So that's why I really like them defining 13ers as 1961 to 1981. We are a very defined group. We're not baby boomers, but we're not millennials. We didn't grow up with the internet and that kind of tech. So it makes sense that for me, 61 to 81 is Gen X. And then it also makes even more sense to have a smaller cohort of your Zennials, your base Xers, and your Joneses. I'm sure everybody probably has their thoughts about that, but this really spoke to me. Should have been class of 89 according to your birthday in January, but started first grade at 5 since I could already read and graduated just before my 17th and a half birthday. Nice. I graduated in 1995 in May, so I was 17 and a half. So I graduated like May 25th of 95. So that was, I was 17 in 6 months. But if I started at 4, that skipped the 5th grade. But then when I switched schools, they made me go through the 6th grade twice because they didn't want me graduating high school at 16. So that was a whole thing. Yes, life was vastly different before Reagan. But it's not just political. It would be because of what they did financially, what they did to the economy, how they changed the economy. Because remember, when the silent and even the baby boomers were growing up and young and in the workforce, in their younger days, the economy we had a manufacturing based economy. And then in the 80s, they transitioned it from a manufacturing based economy to a financial tech based economy. And that happened when we were graduating from high school and entering the workforce. The oldest and youngest of the generation are almost 2 generations, but I think it's kind of a macro category, and then you divide it up into smaller categories. But I see the reason for their 20-year span when they get into this later part of this chapter. But like I said, I really, really enjoyed because they explained in length of a generation why they went with around 22 years. And I liked how they divided up the different phases of life. Elderhood, which was 66 to 87. Central role was stewardship. And again, these aren't set in stone, but these can be generalizations. Stewardship, supervising, mentoring, channeling, endowments, passing on values. Midlife, what? Age 44 to 65. Central role, leadership, parenting, teaching, directing institutions using values. Rising adulthood, 22 to 43. Central role, activity, working, starting families, livelihood, serving institutions, testing values. And then youth, age 0 to 21, central role, dependence, growing, learning, accepting, protection, and nurture, avoiding harm, acquiring values. So I liked their definitions and how they went through with different phases of life. Yeah, 20 to 22 years, give or take. And again, they even say later in this chapter that you can't have, the only reason to have like hard definitions like January 1st, 1961 to December 31st, 1981, the only reason to have any kind of hard definition like that is for statistical purposes. But there's always going to be outliers and people that fall just on other side of the lines at those boundaries. Data collection and statistical purposes is really the only reason you need hard dates. Let's see. Over on page 62, I really liked this. Even though generational membership does not depend at all on family lineage, brothers and sisters or husbands and wives may fall anywhere with respect to cohort group boundaries. The special bonds, emotional, biological, social, economic, connecting parents to their own children clearly matter. In fact, family relationships follow a pattern that offers 3 important corollaries to our cohort-based definition of a generation. A generation's parents or children are distributed over the 2 preceding or 2 succeeding generations. So that means Gen Xers had boomer or silent parents, and the Gen Xers will have millennial or Gen Z children. A generation's early or first wave cohorts, your Generation Jones, are likely to have had an earlier parent generation than the late or last wave cohorts, like the Zennials, which makes perfect sense. Those born in the 60s were more likely to have silent parents. Those born in the 70s were more likely to have boomer parents. Not everybody, but most. And then each generation has an especially strong nurturing influence on the second succeeding generation. Each generation has an especially strong nurturing influence on the second succeeding generation, which means that our nurturing influence came mostly from the silent generation, and then Gen X is going to have most nourishing influence over Gen Z. Of course, this is all a work in progress. Midlife hit you right in the nose. I'm on the leadership team of my church. I was like, oh, they called that. That's nice. Yes, if you remember Kennedy getting shot, you're a boomer. 100%. 100%. That's just one of those things. If you saw Challenger explode at school, or if you were of school age, you're Gen X. That's why when I hear some people born in the 80s want to claim Gen X status, but born in 84 or 85, I'm like, I'm sorry. I must revoke your Gen X card. The boomers were such a large cohort, and many of them had second families or later in life kids, such that they are the parents of 3 generations. Some of the oldest Gen Z have boomer parents. That's a good point. There are those outliers. Oh, and then you have your declining birth rates of people under 40, under 45, like right at the millennial line. They're not having kids and marrying like at all like previous generations. So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects things. All right. Page 63. I hope I'm not boring you guys too much. I super enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this chapter. And remember, we are laying a lot of groundwork here because once we do this, it's going to pay off big time when we get into the 4th turning. And the 4th turning is here. And we're going to get, since this was written when Gen X was so young, it doesn't give us our due. And so it doesn't really give us as much of attention as, it would be nice to have. So that's another reason why 13th gen is going to be nice. You're loving this? Good deal. Awesome. Gen X too. A good half of my friends from high school have 0 kids. Well, yeah, I'm Zennials, the younger Gen Xers, got caught in that social change with the millennials as far as the marriage and declining birth rates. Yeah. So, the older Gen Xers were like they got on the last chopper out of Nam. Literally, like 74. Like if you were born before 74, you have a very different experience from Gen Xers born afterwards. Okay. Here we go. This is probably the page of the part 2 of chapter 3, that I wanted to talk about the most. And that's page 63. I'm going to start at the top here, right where the paragraph begins. Okay. I thought this was something we could talk about in today's terms. Finally, the crucial nurturing relationships between generations 2 apart reflect the greater social influence of older over younger parents. By 1960, the last boomer birth year, GI and silent parents were raising boomer children in roughly equal numbers. But the 40-ish and 50-ish GIs, from Dr. Spock and Walt Disney to school principals and scout leaders, had much greater influence in 1960 over the childhood environment than did the 20-ish and 30-ish silent. So what they're saying there is even though GI boomers had, so half of boomers had in 1960, half of boomers had GI parents and half of boomers had silent generation parents. But even though they were split 50-50, the ones that were the older cohort, the GIs, had more influence over how that generation was parented than the silent generation. So that's what that was saying there. And then similarly, The 1970s were a decade in which silent and boomer parents together raised 13er children. But the 40s silent set the tone. Okay? So those of us that had silent gen parents, they set the tone for how our generation was raised. From Sesame Street and open classrooms to rising divorce rates and the decline of G-rated movies. Now, as the 90s dawn, boomers, not 13ers, are asserting control of the world of millennial children. Between any two parenting generations, the one in midlife naturally exercises a greater cultural and institutional influence than the one in rising adulthood. So Gen X should have a pretty huge influence on Gen Z, which gives me hope. I think there's still a little hope. Have feeling Gen Z going to be a burden for us globally? They grew up in a crisis era. Well, it's, tough times create strong men. Is that the saying? So I'm hoping that it's going to be interesting to see, because never in the history of the world have we seen such population change in the different cultures and countries. We've seen such a huge shift of where people are living and cultures combining. So it's going to be, we are living through big times. Concur. Both of my parents had GI generation parents. Both grandfathers served in World War II. Nice. Notice that my friends with silent parents were given carte blanche by teenagehood, but coddled as kids. Yeah. And it's interesting when you think about that, but it's totally, it makes sense. I messaged Neil Howe on Twitter today and told him that we were doing this book club for the year. We're going through all of him and Strauss's books. Thought maybe there's a chance he could respond and get in, and I'd have him on here in the book club at one point. It's a shot in the dark. Probably won't happen, but I did send him a message. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he doesn't have a massive following on Twitter. Let's see. Let me go to my profile here. Replies. There he is. He's got about 48,000 followers on Twitter. So it's a possibility that I could connect with them. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. He does podcast interviews, right? If he has a rate, ask him how much. We can pull some dough together. Okay, we'll do. But yeah, because I'd really like to hear his take on how the technology advancements, the population and demographic movements throughout the globe. I wonder how that's going to affect this moving forward. It's our ability to communicate, and the technology, the AI, is just really going to, I think, throw a monkey wrench into a lot of this stuff. So we'll see. Hopefully, at some point this year, maybe we can get him on. We're reading all of his books this year. So, and yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. So one more time. Between any two parenting generations, the one in midlife naturally exercises a greater cultural and institutional influence than the one in rising adulthood. Oh my goodness. The thing is, the boomers haven't let go yet. Like they say how midlife, we're supposed to become the leaders. Gen X is supposed to be the leaders now, and boomers are supposed to gizzo. So I'm hoping that happens over the next election cycle. The next from 26 to 28. I'm assuming all the boomers get kicked out of office. They aren't fucking dying either. Well, maybe we can make him retire at least. I think it'll kind of slot right into the theories just on a more geometric level, if that makes any sense. It does make sense. I know exactly what you're talking about because there's still principles in these theories that will hold. The timing might change a little bit. The generations might get shorter, the cohorts smaller, but I think this theory still hold even with the technology changes and the demographic changes. Your uncle is still alive. They told me last month he was on his deathbed. No, I get it. They are that generation is alive and kicking. All right. So page 63, we're going to keep going because I really like this page. We're going to get into peer personality and more definitions of what peer personality is. So far, we have established in the abstract something about how generations are created, how long they are, and how they relate to family genealogy. But how do we actually identify one? For that, we have to focus our attention on peer personality, the element in our definition that distinguishes a generation as a cohesive cohort group with its own unique biography. I love that. The peer personality of a generation is essentially a caricature of its prototypical member. It is, in its sum of attributes, a distinctly person-like creation. A generation has collective attitudes about family life, sex roles, institutions, politics, religion, lifestyle, and the future. It can be safe or reckless, calm or aggressive, self-absorbed or outer-driven, generous or selfish, spiritual or secular, interested in culture or interested in politics. In short, a generation can think, feel, or do anything an individual might think, feel, or do. Between any two generations, as between any two neighbors, such personalities can mesh, clash, be attracted to, or repelled by one another. What do you think of that? I mean, I think that's I really liked that characterization of a generation. I think that's really neat. And I'm a Gen Xer. I wonder if I would feel like this if I wasn't an Xer. I wonder if I would be so obsessed with generations if I was like a dumb millennial or a dumb baby boomer. The turnings are very real. Yep. And they even talk about that. And we will talk about the anomaly of the Civil War when we get into later chapters. But I really like that. And I never really thought about it that way, as a generation having the same traits as a person, as an individual. Generations have personalities. And, Gen Xers have personalities. So check out our generationologist sometime. Oh, as Reddit, I've never done the Reddit thing. I'm not against it, but it just seemed like that just wasn't like a world for me. Like it was, I was too old to be part of Reddit. But I'll check it out. The millennials and Zers are interested in the concept, but have a difficult time parsing the science. Gotcha. You're addicted to Reddit? Uh-oh. Because it's everything. I've seen it. I've seen Reddit, like, it's just like it looks like a bulletin board, like the old bulletin boards, computer bulletin boards back in the day. They're little topics, and you click. I mean, like, it was just interesting site the first time I saw it, but I've never really played around with that. There's a Gen X subreddit. Everything has a forum. It's one big massive ebis. Gotcha. I don't know. Maybe I'll check it out at some point. Or you can be my ambassador to Reddit. Cool. Would you like to be my Reddit ambassador, Grendelson? Just start sharing all my stuff over there. I would be okay with it. Okay. As a social category, a generation probably offers a safer basis for personality generalization than such other social categories as sex, race, region, or age, which I thought was very interesting, but it makes sense. We can more easily fix a consensus personality for the lost or the boomers than we could ever for women or Hispanics or Californians or all the 30-year-olds of a given century. The reason is in the words of Italian historian Giuseppe Ferrari, is that a generation is born, lives, and dies. Like any individual and unlike other social groups, a generation collectively feels historical urgency and finality, conscious of the unrepeatable opportunities offered by whatever phase of life it occupies. It understands that work left undone at each phase of life may never be done by others, or at least not in a way an aging generation might wish it done. In contrast, a sex and age bracket and probably a race will endure as long as the human species survives. Like any group, a generation includes all kinds of people, yet individual divergences from pure personality. And how those divergences are perceived can explain much about a generation. In some respects, a pure personality gives heavy focus to the attitudes and experiences of the generational elite. But while they commonly express the tone of a generation's pure personality, the personality of a generation itself is established by the non-elites. In particular, the attitudes of women and mothers towards their own sex roles and family roles are central to a generation's pure personality. Likewise, groups which are or feel at the social periphery, immigrants, blacks, fundamentalists, often play a major role in fixing or revealing their generation's pure personality. The definition of pure personality is a generational persona, recognized and determined by common age location, common beliefs and behavior, and perceived membership in a common generation. I really like that. I like that we have a personality, and I like the Gen X personality because I'm so very much Gen X. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Guys, I'm thinking about, once we get through generations, I'm thinking about just totally cutting out channel memberships and making all of my content free to everyone. And then, like, if you want to support my channel financially, I could add, like, buy me a coffee for tipping or something like that. But I kind of feel bad about keeping this behind a paywall. Open it up. Okay. After we get through generations, I think I'm going to completely end channel memberships, period, and just open up my whole, have everything on YouTube be completely free. And then I was going to just start my own create my own website and maybe have something in there that I could do behind a paywall. But even then, I don't know. Like, I don't know. We'll see. But I think that at the end of generations, I'm going to end the memberships and just have everything be free on my YouTube channel. You wouldn't end memberships? I mean, you did get me to move from $1 to $5 just to be able to do this club, but I think we get more folks in the streams. Well, that's the thing. Like, that's like, I would like to have, I would like for the audience to grow. And, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, but the book club is like one of the things that is like, I don't know what else I could offer members. I mean, I guess I could do like a daily vlog or something. I might open the book club up to everybody else after generations. We'll see. Anyways, I'm just letting you know, I'm trying to make my stuff as free as possible to as many people as possible, and then make the option of supporting the channel financially, like, you know, just a total option instead of like a forced thing in order to be part of something, if that makes any sense. The door just moved. That was probably my dad letting the dog or the cat in. It's my dad back there. Dad, do you need something? I guess not. That's my dad. Okay. Let's see. I think it's nice to have something for people who pay, but whatever you want, I support you. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, if I keep memberships, then I need to have something like a book club or something for those memberships, like something special. But I want to do this. I would like to have the audience grow on this kind of a thing, and it's hard to do on a behind a paywall. So, you know, so is the life of a YouTube creator. And I appreciate the support. I really do. I will always have something special for my OG supporters. Okay, memberships needed and also some stuff to do with members. Okay. Just remember, it's one me. Like I'm building like all the stuff I'm doing over on Discord. I would love to be able to do for members on YouTube, but I can't because of all the copyright restrictions, right? So I'm just, right now I'm doing stuff every night, Monday through Friday. I got a Monday, I'm doing movie night on Discord. Tuesday night, we're doing book club here. Wednesday and Thursday, we got TV watch alongs over on Discord. Friday, I got the live stream here on YouTube. So like I can only do so much, so many places. Let's see. I do need some merch. Well, I think you even get to 100K membership scheme is good. Okay. Well, yeah, like that was the thing. Like I was just gonna open up my content to everybody, and then and then have a little bit of merch and the buy me a coffee thing. So if you wanted to support financially, you could do it through merch or the coffee tip. So anyways, I'm just opening up there. We'll see what happens. Okay. All right. So one of the questions that I did not ask when we ended chapter 2 was thinking about the diagonal in your own life and in the life of a Gen Xer or a 13er. So, how does being kids in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, latchkey versus young adults in the 80s, 90s Reagan era with individual economic uncertainty, how has that shaped our pragmatic independence streak? Like, and I don't think we would be like this if we were born we wouldn't be. I know we wouldn't be. Like, if I was born if I'd have been born 5 years later, I would be completely different than what I am now because of where I am in life and the historical events around me. So I think it's interesting to think about your own diagonal and how you've changed through different phases in life. That's something to think about while we're going through here. And age location effects. Let's see. And also, how does it make us feel about the challenges ahead? Because we're only halfway through life, right? We're only in the midlife. We're not into the older phase and beyond. So we are in midlife, approaching elderhood, and what the theory calls a crisis turning. How does the diagonal model make you feel about the challenges ahead? Economic pressures, political polarization. Does it give a sense of purpose, or just highlight feeling stuck between older idealists and younger teams? A global pandemic. Yeah, we've seen way too many wars. So just going through all this and seeing ourselves in this diagonal, how do you feel about the challenges ahead in our country or like in our society? The doomsday clock moved forward 4 seconds today. I'm seeing where you're at, Grindelson. So I don't know. It's interesting. This chapter 3, belonging to a generation. What else do I have marked for everybody? Last little bit, chronology, common age, location, and history. Practically all generations writers have agreed that members of a generation feel the ebb and flow of history from basically the same age or phase of life perspective. To find a generation, we look for a cohort group whose members came along at the same time, as Wolf put it, who are nurtured as children, enter adulthood, and pass through subsequent life phases during eras that show no sudden discontinuities. Studying his tempestuous Hitlerian peers from abroad, the German sociologist Karl Mannheim invented the term generational setting. We'll put it that way. Generationslagern, to refer to the sense of common historical location shared by a well-defined cohort group. He described it as a community of date and space. How much do you love that? We are a community of date and space. Yeah, I feel very optimistic that we've already hit the bottom and we're on our way because of how it could get much worse. I mean, it could go either way at this point. Like, I still have hope that it could get better, but it could get so much worse. In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. If Anne Frank can have faith in humanity, so can I. You believe that people are really good at heart? Like just all humans? Like you just think that people see I've really been thinking about this a lot. About and this kind of goes oh, I know it could get worse, just hope it won't. Well, same here. Because I've always I was born and raised a Christian, and I am a Christian, and we've always been taught of original sin and the sinning of the human. So if we are born with original sin and are inherently all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and again, this is from a Christian perspective. If all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, how can people are really good at heart? Does that go together? Which denomination? I was raised Baptist. I'm not really into like the separation of the denominations. I'm not 100% sure what the differences are, to be honest with you. Because there's even different types of Baptists. There's Southern Baptists and Free Will Baptists and all kinds of stuff. I was born an original sinner, and I was born from original sin. If I had a dollar bill for all the things I've done, there'll be a mountain of money piled up to my chin. Hey! Buddhists will outlook different. Well, then again, see, and that's where a lot of this comes from. And this is the discussion, because, a lot of this can go into, your life outlook, religion, and culture. Big time. You believe the opposite. I believe people can be saved. Well, people can be saved, yes. But I'm not 100% sure. Oh, you've lost your faith in humanity and do believe that not everyone can be saved. Gotcha. Well, these are the conversations. I honestly, you have to, you don't have to, but if you have a religion that you believe in, if a faith that you believe in, ultimately faith has to be an individual thing. Like, my journey with my God, is not going to be the same as yours. But then spirituality and faith can affect policy, can affect culture, can affect major events. So it's just weird how all that interconnects. Oh, preach. It needs a little bit of religion. Amen. Well, secularism, I think, has become the religion. Secular, agnostic, atheist, Buddhist, Zen. Nice. Do you have one of those coexist stickers on your car? No, I believe America is way too secular now. It does need a little bit of religion. So, anyways, so what do you guys think? What are you guys' thoughts of the definition of a generation and where we fit moving forward? Because over this next, and we don't even know, like, and again, coming from American perspective, I don't even know who the candidates for different things are going to be in this year or in 28. Like, who is the next generation of people coming up? Everybody's dying off. Our current president is in his second term, and he's 80 or almost 80 or something like that. So, like, who are the next generation? Is it going to be Gen X? Is it going to be millennials? How does this generational switch and shift happen? Are we excited about it, hopeful about it, or are we freaked out about it? You said Millennium Falcon. Lucky. So I think it's just going to be interesting. Will Gen X have any leadership? Will we take reins and leadership, or will the boomers just skip us and go right over to the millennials? You think the millennials are obviously going to take over? Really? Interesting. Now remember, all of your business leaders, almost all of your business leaders are Gen X. The world is moving away from organized religion, and it will remain on the wane throughout the remainder of our lifetimes. The cycle of reawakening is waning and won't reset. Interesting. I don't know. Is the world moving away from organized religion? Really? I mean, it's very rare. No, not rare. But people still identify faiths between Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism. Like there's a. I mean, I don't know. I think organized religion is still very much a part of the world. I could be wrong. Not for long. Okay. The millennials are the hero generation. It's kind of a given, but they've also really screwed up big time. And they were also sold a bill of goods by the boomers. They were told everybody's special, everybody gets trophy, go to college, get in debt, have a big job, get the house, the car, the trips, and they didn't get any of it. So will they rebel? Will they destroy? I don't know. Boomers stymie millennials' growth on purpose. I think you're not wrong. They did the same to Gen X. Ugh, I need a beverage. It's super interesting. And I've really, really enjoyed this, even though it can get into the weeds sometimes on the data and the examples, but I appreciate it. They're very, very specific into they did their due diligence with this book. I mean, the amount of research that they did is insane. If you go into the back end of all of the notes and the sources and the bibliographies, there's like 100 pages of just bibliographies, notes, and sources. So I really appreciate that. And it's going to be really exciting when we get into their projections for the next few decades. For next week, chapters 4 and 5, the 4-part cycle, and the cycle in America. I'm going to get into a lot of history, so I hope you like history. Midlife is a bitch. That's true. Believe people are moving away from places of worship but not religion. That's fair. That's a fair statement, because even as a Christian, I don't go to church like I used to. I haven't found a church home that like I had when I was growing up. So, I mean, that's fair. What about 4, 5, 6? All 3, then it will finish part 1. Sounds good to me. Everybody else in? 4, 5, 6. We'll finish up part 1. I love history too. So this will be really, really interesting. 4, 5, 6. Will get us, let me look to the beginning here, through part 1. So that would be the 4-part cycle, the cycle in America, from Puritans to millennials and beyond. So it looks like that's what we're going to be doing. All right. The hated Pews have issued white papers denoting the decreasing trends. Gotcha. The Pews. You know how I feel about the Pews. Yeah, American religion is kind of a stalemate. Guys, it's easy when we don't have to worry about quizzes or tests or grades. Exactly. And again, this is supposed to be for fun, as a conversation starter, or a spark to, maybe change perspective a little bit about things. And so, yeah, this isn't a class. I'm not going to test you. College was 20 years ago for me this year. Yeah, it's 26 years ago since I graduated. I was class of 2000. Oh, there's not going to be a final. Well, I guess I should I guess I could put together a final for you. I could have Grok help me put together a final. You've been studying for no reason. Okay, you're all getting the final. It's official. 2004 for you. Graduated age 35. Wow. Nice. 25 years since graduated. Isn't that crazy? Like, it just feels it just feels weird. Make the final a game show, Lounge Singer. You know me so well. I like that idea. I like that a lot. All right, so for next week, we are doing chapters 4, 5, and 6. That's going to be awesome, and that'll get us through part 1. February, we'll see. February and March is what I have as scheduled for this book. So by the end of March, for the next book, I will pull the book club out and put it into the main channel. The future of memberships remains to be seen. I was considering starting a daily vlog because I have been very inspired by Adam the Woo's death. And he vlogged every day for like 12 years. He started his channel in 2010, but started daily vlogging in like 2012. And so, the man vlogged every day. It's like watching a 12-year movie of somebody's life. And you can just start from the beginning and just go in order. And it's so neat and interesting. And I miss Adam too. Can we find a Jeopardy online game that allows a custom quiz? I'm sure I could. I know. Teams. Ooh, I like this Jeopardy style. Okay, all right. I love it. Was it a heart disease or a heart attack? It's heart issues, right? I think. I haven't seen like an official like a report, but I kind of assumed. Was that a yeah? Was it a heart attack or just heart disease? I'm going back through a lot of his videos, and it's amazing how much he talked about death and preparation for the future and health and like all that. Undiagnosed heart conditions. Okay. Yeah, and considering he was always a little bit heavy, he was traveling a lot, and I know being in airplanes constantly for long hours can do a number on your body. And but yeah. Boy, he lived a life. Anyway, so I've been watching a lot of Adam's videos, like rewatching a lot of Adam's videos, and I'm just like, I'm not traveling all over the place right now, and I can't because I'm taking care of my dad. So I'm stuck here in my small town in the middle of America. But I was like that. But I'm in a town that's been here since the late 1700s. So it's one of the oldest towns west of the Mississippi. The town next to me is like the oldest town west of Mississippi. And so I was like, man, I could just kind of do daily vlogs in my own little area here and just talk about things the way Adam did. How cold is it here tonight? I think we're in the teens. Let me look and see. Uh-oh. Let me look. Weather. We're at 20 degrees right now, getting into the teens tonight. Better get those water faucets open and the water dripping. It's going to get down to 9 degrees by sunrise in the morning. But we're going to get a little bit of a heat wave. We're going to be in the 30s tomorrow and Thursday. So that's exciting. So anyway, I was thinking about trying to take Adam's idea of his daily vlog and with his travels and kind of flip it around and do it in my little small area. Yeah, 9 degrees. Whole week is pretty bad in Indy. High is 72 in SoCal. Hey, the thing was though, it got to like 35 degrees today, and I went to Walmart with my brother to do like our big monthly food run where we go and get a bunch of stuff all for the food storage. And after like going through the store and getting all the stuff and spending like $600, it felt like I had just been through a marathon. And I had to take my sweatshirt off halfway through. By the time we got outside, I was in a t-shirt and shorts in 35-degree weather, feeling like it was amazing because of my midlife hot flashes. It was t-shirt weather. Everybody else was walking in, just big coats, boots, hats. I'm walking out of that store in my t-shirt and shorts. Like, this is amazing. I had started sweating so bad, and I didn't have a hair tie, and I had to like pull it up on the top of my head. I mean, I was sweating so bad. Shopping can be exhausting sometimes, don't you know? I lived in Orem for 2 years. 13 oh, not 2 years, 5 years. 1392 South, 605 West. That was my favorite part of Utah, was the grid. But anyways, okay, so next week we got our chapters prepared for next week. So we'll be back together for that. 3 chapters, and I know we can do it. It's gonna be fun. Yeah. What was I saying? Driving Ace Ventura style. I don't drive hardly anymore. I let the guys in my life drive, because it's just a better, you know. I like to let them do it. But I did have the window down when we were driving home. So I feel like there was something else I was going to tell you guys, but I don't know. So, the vlog thing. So anyway, Adam's kind of been inspiring me to do something along those lines, but I would start it for just the channel members. So like, if I kept my channel memberships, maybe that's what I would do for channel members as a daily vlog. But I don't know. Things are going around in my head. I'm only one person. I can only do 1 to 2 channels, plus the Discord, plus the website. Challenger stuff tomorrow. I am. I think I'm gonna go live. Let's see. I'm thinking maybe around like 3:00 in the afternoon, because I have my Little House watch along at 7:00. So I don't know. Is 3:00? What would be a good time, do you think, for me to do Challenger? Maybe I should go early. Maybe I should go like noon. Do it in the middle of the day, because it happened around noon. Or should I go after I watch Little House? What are your thoughts? Give me your feedback. Oh, Dale's awake. Happened in the morning for you, second period. Oh, because you're on the West Coast. It happened at like 11:00 for me. It was right before lunch. Right before lunch. I think you'll need Little House to decompress. I think you're right. You vote for after, but you're on the West Coast. Well, Little House lasts about an hour and a half. We watch 2 episodes from 7 to 8:30. So here are the options. I could do it at noon, my time, 3:00 my time, or 9:00 at night, my time. So those would be the options. I don't know. 11:30 yeah. Okay, 11:30 a.m. I knew it was right before noon on the East Coast. A little trauma on the prairie, decompress. It's all trauma everywhere. But yeah, so we were an hour behind. So it happened at 10:39 my time, and we our lunchtime in school was at 11. So yeah, it was right before lunch. I don't know. Look for the post tomorrow, because I'll post it on community in the morning what time I'm going to do it. I haven't decided yet. Now, when we get to my 9/11 stream, that bitch is going all day long. We are starting at like 7 a.m. and going all day. We're going to do it. We're going to watch it as it happened on 9/11. Trust and believe. Gotcha. So yeah, tomorrow's Challenger Day. I know, it's been 25 years since 9/11. Isn't it insane? And again, this kind of stuff goes with what we're talking about in generations, how it affected us. I was 23 years old when that happened. I had just graduated from college the year before. I was entering the workforce, and that happened and changed everything. You vote for after Little House, but whatever is best for me. Are we thinking after Little House? Are we thinking a late night Challenger stream? Is that what I'm hearing from y'all? I'll post in the morning what time it's gonna go. I'm gonna go live. because we're going to watch it. We're going to watch the video I made about it. So we're going to watch the launch, watch the video I made about it. We're going to do some conspiracy theories and I don't know, maybe some news coverage from moving up to it, because it was a big whole deal moving up, like leading up to the Challenger Day. Yes. Same, that we're going to watch that Lounge Zinger. I found a video that yes. There's a couple. There's the flights in real time one, and then there's the news coverage at this in real time. So you get all these different news reports as it's happening. So I don't know which one I'm going to do. We might do both. Yeah. Yeah, 2 of them were Boston to LA flights. The first 2 that went into the towers were from Boston to LA. That was flight 11 and flight what was the second? Flight 11 was the first one. Flight 93 was in Pennsylvania. Flight 77 was in Pentagon. I can never remember the number of the second flight that hit the second tower. It was United 10 something. Yeah. Both together? Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I'll have to figure out if I had the technology for that. I'll have to prepare. We still have a few months for that. But the conspiracy, honestly, it was the conspiracy theories of 9/11 that set me on the course of my politics for today. I went from like regular politics of the regular parties of Republican and Democrat in the 90s, and then when 9/11 happened, that's when I started listening to Alex Jones, and that's what got me questioning my government. So yeah, 9/11 was a big day for me and my politics, for my life, for our society, for our culture. What, bub? Come here, say hi. Dale wants to say hi. Would you guys like to say hi to Dale? Say hi, Bob. Can you say hi to everybody? Say hi. That's when I ordered the tinfoil hat. Yep. I don't listen to Alex Jones anymore, but he was the one that got me questioning the government narratives. Yeah, it is my kitty. He's hungry, so I'm going to have to go. But no one does. Well, I think they probably switched him out. It looks like he's been cloned and replaced. About 4 years ago, it looks like they replaced him. F. Alex Jones. Oh my God. He got me thinking about all kinds of things. Like, he was the one that had me starting questioning government narratives, news narratives, official stories, or official organizations. Then I got really into the Ron Paul revolution in the aughts. I was a Ron Paul delegate in the 2008 and the 2012 presidential elections. So I went hardcore libertarian for a long time. I should always question the government, but like George Orwell, who was also a jerk, got me to do that after reading 1984. Absolutely. 1984, Animal Farm. Animal Farm's a really good one. But yeah, right there with you. It's always about questioning the government and loving my country. I love my country. Okay, guys, I got to go. Dale's yelling at me. Next week, chapters 3, 4, and 5. Tomorrow, Challenger and Little House on the Prairie. Boy, that's a Gen X day. Who watches The Watchmen? Are you asking? That's a line from something, isn't it? I know I didn't know if you were talking about the Watchmen comic book or if you were talking about the line, who watches The Watchmen. I like it. Class dismissed. So, you actually saw 600 Terrence graffiti on the wall? Wow. It's from Watchmen. Okay. Guys, have a great night. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And I will see you all when I see you. Hopefully tomorrow. And I'm working on a new video. It'll be out at some point. But doing all these lives keeps me from editing. So it is what it is. Have a great night, guys. And I will see you all tomorrow. It's an ancient Roman. I didn't know that. Okay. Bye, guys.